We have countries that charge us 100% tax on a product. And when that product is sold by them to us, we brilliantly charge them nothing. And people say, oh, that's free trade. No, that's stupid trade. That's really stupid trade.
I wonder if that's a technical term. That's President Trump promoting his plans to renegotiate trade deals and bring factory jobs to the U.S. He was talking at a White House event highlighting products made in America. The president's trade policy includes a threat to tax importing steel. Critics say that could lead to a global trade war, targeting products from the American heartland like orange juice, dairy goods, and whiskey. Mark Strassman is in Bardstown, Kentucky, where distillers are warning against a bourbon backlash. Mark, good morning.
Good morning. If you love bourbon, this is heaven. Heaven Hill, the world's largest privately owned and operated bourbon maker. In warehouses like this, there are 1.2 million barrels of aging American whiskey just at this one distillery. But suddenly, this industry's growth market, which is overseas, is a growing worry.
Aging well is what bourbon's all about. And no question, America's native spirit is a survivor. It outlived the Whiskey Rebellion, the Civil War, and Prohibition. 95% of bourbon today is made here in Kentucky, but increasingly enjoyed around the world. Places 4,000 miles away, like 65 and King, a bar in London.
The bourbon sales are spiking.
It's undeniable.
There's no question people abroad love bourbon.
Fred Minnick, a bourbon authority, wrote Bourbon, The Rise, Fall, and Rebirth of American Whiskey.
For the first time, you have foreign markets that are getting the opportunity to consume bourbon. And what that has done, it's created an $8.5 billion industry here.
Bourbon's overseas market alone is now worth $1.5 billion. If President Trump imposes tariffs on steel imports, the European Union has threatened retaliatory tariffs against specific American products, like bourbon.
The Europeans have looked quite hard at what might hurt most.
Vicky Price is a British economist who follows the EU.
And they have found one that they believe will have emotional appeal and maybe therefore change the mind of President Trump.
Why target bourbon? The EU is serving up a stiff shot of hardball politics straight up.
The majority of it's made in Kentucky. Well, who's in Kentucky? Senator McConnell. They're going to press where it hurts.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's home state of Kentucky voted for President Trump by almost a 2-to-1 margin last November. 17,500 people work on distilleries along Kentucky's famed Bourbon Trail, and some of them could have jobs on the line.
I mean, it seems to be a bit of an irony here. This is a uniquely American industry, and yet that American first policies could come back and bite the industry.
There's no doubt that President Trump's trade policies could hurt bourbon. The job growth has been unlike anything else in Kentucky. And if we start seeing tariffs come on to bourbon, I really think that bourbon jobs could be lost.
All of this bourbon has to age at least 2 years, some of it for 23 years. So another trade war worry for this industry is counterfeit bourbon, cheap liquor made overseas with the name bourbon slapped on the side. Nora?
All right, Mark, thanks. Let's hope that doesn't happen. This is a great American industry.
Indeed, but it's an elusive question. How do you get fair trade?
Yeah. We'll be working on that.
You see the consequences, our largest trading partner as well as Europe.
Right.